Hello and welcome to today's video. Water has always been the make and break of many societies, including Australia, which we discussed in a previous video. So it makes sense for countries to fight over it. One such example is the tensions over the Nile from Egypt and Ethiopia. The tensions between Egypt and Ethiopia over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, also known as the GERD, has its roots in the historic disagreement over the sharing of the Nile River waters, which is also the issue we are looking at today. Why two of the most powerful countries in Africa are fighting over this dam. For Egypt, the Nile is a lifeline and has always been this way. As a result, Egypt has long considered itself the guardian of the Nile and believed they had an inherent right to a lion's share of the river's water. On the other hand, Ethiopia is a landlocked country with limited access to the sea and a large population of over 100 million people. The country has long sought to use its natural resources, including its abundant water resources, to fuel its economic growth and development. The GERD project is a symbol of Ethiopia's aspirations for greater self-reliance and economic independence. The GERD is a hydroelectric project being built on the Blue Nile River, which is the main tributary of the Nile. It is designed to generate up to 6,000 megawatts of electricity, making it one of the largest hydroelectric power plants in Africa. The project has been under construction for over 10 years and is located in the Benishangul-Gumuz region of Ethiopia. Don't correct me, please. The Nile River is essential to Egypt's survival as it provides a country with over 90% of its water supply. Therefore, any disruption to the flow of the Nile due to the construction of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam could have serious impact on Egypt's water security and overall well-being. If the GERD stops or restricts the flow of the Nile River, Egypt's agriculture and food security could be severely impacted. Egypt relies heavily on the Nile River for irrigation and many crops such as cotton, rice, and sugarcane. A reduction in water supply could lead to decreased crop yields, affecting both the domestic market and exports to the other country. This could have ripple effects for the economy, including rising food prices, unemployment, and social unrest. However, the Egypt's hydroelectric power supply could be disrupted if the GERD reduces the flow of the Nile. The Aswan High Dam, built in 1970, is Egypt's primary source of hydroelectric power, generating about 12% of the country's electricity. A reduction in water flow could cause power outages and affect industries that rely on electricity, such as manufacturing and transportation. In addition, a decrease in the Nile's flow could also disrupt the country's fresh water supply. Egypt's growing population, coupled with climate change-induced droughts, is already putting a strain on the country's freshwater resources. Any further reduction in water availability could worsen the situation, leading to water scarcity, public health issues, and potentially even migration. Lastly, the GERD has the potential to strain Egypt's diplomatic relationships with Ethiopia and other African countries. If Egypt perceives the GERD as a direct threat to its national security, it could lead to increased tensions and even military conflict. Such tensions could impact regional stability and have wider implications for the African continent as a whole. Ethiopia, however, argues that the GERD project will not significantly affect the flow of the Nile River. According to Ethiopia, the dam will regulate the flow of water, reducing the impact of floods and droughts, and increasing the overall water supply in this region. Ethiopia also argues that the GERD project is crucial for its development and economic growth, as it will generate electricity and provide irrigation for agriculture. The GERD issue has been a source of tension between Egypt and Ethiopia for years. Both countries have engaged in diplomatic negotiations as well as occasional military posturing. The African Union has been involved in negotiations to resolve the issue, and there has been several rounds of talks. However, the negotiations have yet to yield a final agreement that satisfies both parties. One of the major points of contentions between Egypt and Ethiopia is the timeline for filling the GERD reservoir. Ethiopia has argued that it is right to fill the reservoir at its own pace, while Egypt has demanded that the process be carried over a longer period to minimize the impact on downstream water flow. The situation is further complicated with the involvement of other regional actors such as Sudan, which also relies on the Nile River for its water supply. The GERD issue has the potential to destabilize the entire region if not resolved peacefully through diplomatic means. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Wait, have you subscribed? And also, since you're still here, why don't you check out this video? I promise you it's interesting.